What is up? Wednesday, April 7th, 2021. Right here on the Monty Show. Huge game for the Jazz tonight. The moment is so big.
Right.
I had to pause and wonder if I could take it.
Okay.
The moment.
Right, the moment.
So big.
Yeah, we get it.
Jazz and Suns in Phoenix tonight. It's all you ever wanted in an NBA game. We'll talk about that. The Haps in the league. The Masters. Do you care? I know that nothing happened before you were born 13 years ago, Jake.
Obviously.
Are you excited about the Masters?
Yeah.
All right, we'll talk about that coming up. The debacle that is our bathroom renovation. We'll talk about that. So welcome to the Monty Show. Make sure you find us anywhere you want to find us. Just search The Monty Show, Monty, The Monty Show, on Google, and you'll find our podcast. You'll find our YouTube channel, which you're going to hit subscribe on right now, and you're going to give us a thumbs up for everybody watching. Please do that. Appreciate you. Let's start with some NBA hope this morning. And I say that because this game in Phoenix tonight between the Utah Jazz and the Phoneix Suns is the game of the year for both teams. It is really going to decide the trajectory of this season going forward. And I think the implications are much larger for the Jazz. And I say that, Jake, because I think the Suns know that they are a fringe championship contender. Mm-hmm. The Jazz are certified, minted NBA championship contenders.
Right.
They're one of the best teams in the NBA. They're the best team in the NBA by record. But have the Utah Jazz lost their swagger?
Yeah, I mean, I think that they're definitely not the team that they were in the first half when they were going on that win streak and doing all those great things, and everyone was saying that this is amazing and, you know, this is everything that Jazz fans have ever wanted. I don't think they're still in that same place. I think that they're much more in a position where now they're trying to weather the storm that is the length of the NBA season. You know, if it ended today, they'd be the 1 seed, you know. But again, as we're about to get to, this game tonight is massive just because it is the Suns, and the Suns are right behind them in the West. And I think that if you're the Jazz, anything other than the 1 seed is unacceptable this year. Right? You have a Lakers team that clearly is not healthy. You've got a Clippers team that just never lives up to it. And then you've got this Suns team that has been building for years, and they're finally starting to see some success this year. So if you're the Jazz, this is your year, and you got to make it happen. But I think there's a lot of questions and a lot of differing opinions on who the Jazz are. I mean, yesterday, and you know, obviously, you know, you were the one in these interactions, but yesterday on Twitter there was a bunch of people saying, "Man, well, you know, this team has won 9 in a row, and everything's hunky dory. What are you guys complaining about?" And I'm just sitting here saying, "Hey, that might be true that they've won 9 in a row. That may be true." But the issue is the way they're winning. The issue is the way they're losing to teams like Dallas, who are actually competitive teams. And I think overall the Jazz are just in a position where they got to continue to prove that they are legit. You can't win 9 in a row against subpar teams and then go and lose to Dallas, who doesn't even have all their players. That's just not. That's not going to work. And so do they have their swagger? Have they lost their swagger? Yeah, they're not shooting it at the rate they were, and that's what the swag is on this team. You're going to shoot it at a 45% rate from three, and you're going to win by 20 points, and they're not doing that right now.
Well, my feeling is that when you look at who this team is, and if you really get into the Utah Jazz and you start to really try to diagnose what they are about as a basketball team, I think one of the things that becomes apparent to anybody that's watched this team this year is that the Jazz need to shoot the three to win. It is that simple. And not even shoot the three. They need to make the three at a very high percentage. 38 to 40 plus, the Jazz are going to win. The problem is you have a lot of guys on this club right now that are not shooting the three well. I'll continue to say that Bojan Bogdanovic is a critical player for the Utah Jazz. He's got to make threes. And we've gotten to a place with the Jazz where Bojan has gone away from threes. He is now back to the basket Bojan. He's a guy that's trying to muscle you on the block. That's not his game. When the Jazz were in the middle of what was that, an 11-game winning streak earlier this year, a lot of it was Bogey shooting threes that are just backbreakers. They break your spirit when he makes those threes. That guy is light years away. He's gone. And the Jazz have to reinvent that. And the argument last night on Twitter, a lot of comments. And Jake, I know you enjoy, well, you guys just don't watch the game, guy.
Twitter
as
tough
much
guy.
As I do. Like, I love when people say, well, you guys just don't watch the game.
How could you say that? You guys are dumb. You don't watch Jazz games.
Have you ever seen a Jazz game? No. What?
No, we don't watch Jazz games, bro. We just.
You mean the New Orleans Jazz?
Yeah.
Right? Like, what do you mean? I love that argument. And a lot of fans are the same way. But the truth that you can't get away from, no matter how much of a Jazz fan you are, if this team's not making threes, they lose. It's very simple. And when I look at what's gone on over the last 3 weeks since the All-Star break, and if you go all the way back to the loss in Miami, you go to Charlotte, you go to Philly, you look at the way that the Jazz are losing games. It's guards getting into the paint after switches with Rudy Gobert. The Clippers did it. That's how they won that game. Pat Beverly making that three in the corner, that's the shot that created the blueprint on how you beat the Jazz in the paint. Switch Rudy Gobert onto a guard and go to the basket. We've seen it repeatedly. We saw it in Dallas the other night. Yep. They switch Rudy Gobert onto Finney Smith, and the lane becomes more wide open. And when Rudy Gobert tries to lean or cheat to the paint, you're leaving Finney Smith open, and what did he do? He rotated the ball, and who'd you leave open? Luka Doncic, which can never happen. But because of the rotations and because teams are switching Rudy to a guard, Jake, I think it is absolutely what I said yesterday. I think it's the fatal flaw of the Utah Jazz.
Yeah, and I think that anytime you have a great team, because let's be honest, I mean, the Jazz are a great team. I mean, I look back to years past in the NBA. You know, you look at the great Warrior teams, you look at LeBron's Miami Heat teams, and every team, you know, has weaknesses. And the NBA is going to figure out how to exploit those weaknesses to beat them. And it just so happens that the Jazz don't have a roster with three superstars on it. They don't have a roster with, you know, LeBron, D. Wade, and Chris Bosh, and Ray Allen standing in the corner. They don't have that. And so the issue is accentuated because they don't have that. So often, and I think you will see it tonight, but so often for the Jazz, it turns into the Donovan Mitchell show, which is fine. You know, it's fine. I mean, that's who Don is. He's your star player. He's the face of the franchise. I get it. But I just think in the postseason, what nobody wants to talk about is that you can't have just one guy and that's it. I mean, if you're going to have one guy and that's it, you better be shooting the hell out of the ball because we can't have... This team, you know what the real thing is? This team is prone to having the night where they just don't shoot well, and it's debilitating to them because not only do they lose the game, it kills their momentum heading into the next game. All they're sitting here talking about all season long is how, well, we got to shoot the ball better, and so what ends up happening? You get Bogdanovich not shooting the ball anymore because he wants to see the ball go through the hoop. You know, you get these guys who feel like they got to get into the paint to get higher percentage looks. And I'm just sitting here saying, man, like, again, if you ran an offense that wasn't so predicated on the three-point shot, we might be in a different place. But unfortunately, that's what they do. And I just don't see that as a success or as a plan for success in the long term. That said, they are a very difficult team to play. I mean, the Jazz are no joke. Defensively, like if you turn the ball over, you're probably losing to the Jazz. You know, that's the saving grace. If the Jazz play good defense, they're in almost every game. So I just think that the people who are saying, well, they've won 9 in a row, they're the best team in the league, everything's amazing, how could you be criticizing them? We're criticizing the fact that this team lives and dies by the three-point shot. And if they're not making that shot, they're losing the game. And I'm just telling you, going up against the Nuggets, watch the entire Nuggets versus Pistons game yesterday. Nuggets look phenomenal. Ton of different ways to beat you. If you're going to go up against that team, you better be making all your shots. Simple as that. Because if you don't, you're going to lose.
I'm telling you right now, Nikola Jokic is the MVP. I mean, you look at the way he's playing. You look at, I have no idea how the Bucks lost last night. It's losses like that on national TV, on nights where you're isolated, where you go to Golden State to die. Your MVP hopes go to Golden State to die. And then you look at Nikola Jokic dominating again last night. Sure, it was the Pistons, but this was a game where people were pointing to Jeremy Grant's return to Denver, and Jokic shows out again. And Aaron Gordon, by the way, shows out again. The passing that Jokic has brought to the floor now that Gordon is there is just incredible.
Yeah.
Nikola Jokic is the MVP. There was a big discussion yesterday on our YouTube channel. Again, The Monty Show, Monty, The Monty Show. Make sure you find us, subscribe, and give us a thumbs up. Big discussion about Jokic versus Rudy. At this point, I can say, with all due respect to Rudy Gobert, Defensive Player of the Year this year, and I'm not sure that it's close, and I have a lot of respect for that. I don't think it's close. Nikola Jokic is a better, more valuable player than Rudy Gobert, and I think we're seeing that on a nightly basis. Mm-hmm. Rudy Gobert is not vital to the Utah Jazz winning. He certainly helps, and he's a significant impact guy. He's not vital. The guy that's vital is Donovan Mitchell. We saw it against Dallas. He had an off night, they lose. Mm-hmm. And again, Rudy double against Dallas, right? I think it was 15 points, 14 boards. Yeah. And you have Mike Conley go off, and they lose because you don't have Donovan Mitchell, and Bogdanovich is not shooting that three and impacting the game the way he has this year. That's what's going on with the Jazz right now.
Yeah.
And so I look at Donovan Mitchell, and I say to myself, this guy's really, really important.
Yeah.
So I ask you, is he ready to be the best player on the best team that's an NBA champion?
Yeah, I don't know if he's quite there yet. I definitely think that Don has a lot of room for improvement. I saw, it was funny, I saw an argument on Twitter last night, over Donovan Mitchell versus, Devin Booker and the comparisons and everything like that. And I think the issue for Donovan Mitchell is he's just not an efficient player right now in terms of scoring. There are a lot of times where I feel like he does settle for that three. There are a lot of times where he's not getting to his spot, and I think that the best scorers in the game are getting to whatever spot they want to get to no matter what the defender's doing. And I think for Donovan, again, this is where the build thing comes back into play. Devin Booker I think he's 6'5", and he's lanky, and he can hang with the best of them. Where Donovan is like 6'3", he's a bit shorter, he's a bit stockier, and I think that changes the way that Donovan Mitchell goes about scoring. So is he ready to step into the best player on the best team role? I mean, that's what he is for this team. If you put him on another team, I don't know that he's the best player on the best team.
By the way, don't be too generous. He's 6'1", Donovan Mitchell.
Yeah, so he's not tall.
But his height plays no factor in his game. I think he is a bit of a cannonball, there's no doubt, right, when he goes in there. But I look at Donovan Mitchell versus Devin Booker, and right now, again, with all due respect, I just think Devin Booker's a more efficient, proficient, lethal scorer than Donovan Mitchell is at the moment. Well, and a lot of that is that he has a lot more help. I think when you look at Devin Booker, Chris Paul makes all the difference in the world. Mike Conley as a scorer is probably better than Chris Paul. Facilitator, distributor, intangibles, those all go to Chris Paul. And I think that matters. When I look at offensive weapons, everybody on that Suns team is capable of putting the ball in the hole. From DeAndre Ayton to Chris Paul. You pick the guy on offense, Dario Saric.
Yep.
Mikal Bridges, obviously. You pick the guy on that team, they can all score. That makes Devin Booker more lethal. There's no question. And the one thing that I think Devin Booker has done this year that's really taken him to that next level is he has developed a can't-miss mid-range game. Mm-hmm. Now, of course, he missed the other night with the game on the line. But Devin Booker has developed an ability to score from anywhere on the floor. His bag of tricks is, in my opinion, much deeper than Book's bag of tricks is much deeper than Donovan's bag right now. And I think that's why you're seeing that the Suns are on this next plateau. Mm-hmm. Right? The Jazz are built on team shooting. Right. That's the key. The Suns are built on efficient, move the ball, shoot the three, get to the basketball.
Work to a high percentage look.
That's right. And whether that's a three, and oftentimes it is for the Suns, or whether that is a mid-range out of DeAndre Ayton, a drive and kick out of Chris Paul.
Yeah.
The other thing I think is so impressive about Devin Booker's numbers, he's not relying on the three ball as much.
Yeah.
Don, because of the system that the Jazz play and Quinn Snyder's voracious appetite for the three ball, has really turned into a three-point shooter. And when he is not shooting the three well, he's not going to have big nights. Devin Booker has figured out that three ball is not going to go in. You're going to miss 6 of 10 threes when you're at your best. right?
Hall of Famers.
And you look at Steph Curry, who I think we both agree is the best three-point shooter of all time.
Yeah.
Just shooter in general of all time. I think he knows he's going to miss 6 out of every 10. You can't make a living shooting at 40% success.
Yep.
You have to have other ways to get there.
Yep.
Donovan does, but the biggest problem for me with Donovan Mitchell's game right now is he takes a physical beating.
Mm-hmm.
To get points, he's got to go to the basket. I love that dribble, pull-up, mid-range jumper he's got. It's automatic.
Mm-hmm.
Please use that more.
Yeah. Well, I think that's why I say that I think the size does matter when it comes to their games and comparing them because, at 6'1", the mid-range game is not going to be nearly as easy for you as it is at 6'5". Devin Booker can essentially post the guy up on the elbow, physically back him down a little bit and then step back for the jumper. Whereas Donovan, you're not going to see Donovan do that too much. Donovan's a slasher, a shooter, somebody who yes, does have a pull-up J, but it's usually in transition or off of a pick. It's never going to be one-on-one. That's just not his game. And so I guess the whole point here is just that the Jazz are just in a position where they got to continue to prove it. I want to see them beat the best teams in the league. I want to see them actually show up and beat the Nuggets. I want to see them beat the Clippers. I want to see them beat Philly. The original question was, do they still have their swag? Well, you would have still had your swag if Joel Embiid didn't kick the hell out of Rudy Gobert when you went to Philly, right?
I really think it goes back to the Miami game.
Well,
because you saw Miami, they were really the first team that successfully attacked the paint and used that shoulder. And then you went to Charlotte, and what did they do? Mm-hmm. Then the Clippers, and you're seeing this. You talked about it yesterday on the show. You're seeing this blueprint where teams now in the NBA have adjusted to the way the Jazz play, and the Jazz have not adjusted. And again, all kinds of guys, and I should probably read some comments from YouTube from yesterday. But all kinds of guys got really upset yesterday on YouTube that we were saying they just did not adjust.
I personally would like an apology.
I lost several nights of sleep over it. Mm-hmm. It's one of these things where, like, Cooper Royale says, LOL, these guys obviously haven't been watching the Jazz. They just won 9 in a row, and as soon as they lose, you guys are quick to bash them. WTF, you guys are haters. Oh, we're haters. And then No Nothing says Jazz have let down on a 9-game winning streak after their most dominant performance of the year, and everyone loses their mind. This 9-game streak was not their most dominant performance of the year. Sorry. Their January run was far more dominant. They weren't losing no matter what you did to them or who you put in front of them because the 3-ball was going down at a historic clip.
Yeah.
Right? The Hammer says, y'all seem to forget a couple of very important things. You seem to think that every team has a next play come the playoffs except the Jazz. Newsflash, the Jazz have their own next level. Okay, well, explain to me what that is.
Show me. What's the next level?
What is that?
What is the next level against Philly when Tobias Harris is kicking the hell out of Bogdanovich on the block and they take over the game? What is the next level when you're playing a fully healthy Lakers team and Anthony Davis is taking Rudy Gobert to the woodshed? What is that next level?
What's the next level against the Sixers when Tobias Harris is dominating Bogey and Rudy has to sag off to help the double?
Yeah, and it still doesn't work. He still scores.
Well, no, it's not even that it doesn't work. It's that Joel Embiid is hitting 3-pointers on you. Yeah. So what do? You leave Bogey on an island. And there's no next level there.
And the thing that I would say too, what's funny about these comments is I love that people will say, oh well, these comments right here are very surface level arguments, right? You notice that nobody's talking about the fact that their shooting percentage has been crap over the last several games, right? All you ever hear is, well, they won 9 games and everything's great and they have a next level too. Jazz fans are living in this kind of, I don't even know really how to describe it other than to just say you're living in an alternate reality about who this team is. Yes, the record says they're the best team in the league. I don't doubt that. It's on paper. Awesome. Like, they've shown that they can beat a lot of teams in the NBA. That's very true. But they've also shown us in games of consequence aka potential postseason matchups, they are not better than those teams. That's what we're talking about on this show. Who gives a damn if you beat the Bulls by 50? I don't care. You should have beat them by 50.
Here's the 9 games. At the Raptors, impressive win.
Good win. Yeah.
At the Bulls, not impressive. Home versus the Nets. On paper, that sounds great. Well, until you realize that Harden, Durant, and Kyrie didn't play.
Yeah.
Home back-to-back against the Grizzlies.
Grinder games, but you should win those.
Home versus the Cavaliers. You
Definitely should win
absolutely
that.
destroyed them. At the Grizzlies.
Definitely should win.
Versus the Bulls.
Definitely should win.
Versus the Magic. Where
Definitely
you won
should win.
by 40, I think it was 45.
Yeah.
And then the Mavericks, the first real competitive team you played, you lost. And that's why I say tonight you got to go there and you have to dominate. You have to win. Because if we go back to that long streak in what was that, February?
Yeah.
Where they beat Detroit at Atlanta, at Charlotte, at Indiana, Boston, Milwaukee, Miami, Philly, and then the Clippers, and then they lost that one game to the Clippers and beat Charlotte and the Lakers, and then they lose to Miami, at Miami, right? Tough game. You beat Orlando, and then you lose back-to-back at New Orleans and Philly, and I don't think you've been the same team since.
You lost to New Orleans, dude.
And New Orleans, again, played that mentality and used that blueprint.
Yeah.
Guards aggressively attacking the rim. Zion aggressively attacking the rim. Rudy won a lot of those battles in there, but he didn't win enough of them because you can't win every one of them.
Right.
And my point is that when you're the Utah Jazz, you better figure that out. You better figure out how to defend the paint when Rudy is sagging, because a lot of that stuff was driving kick as well.
Yeah, I think that the answer to all of the Jazz issues is simply just shooting the 3-ball at a high rate.
Yeah.
That's the great thing and the worst thing here, because shooting the 3-ball is not an easy feat. I know that in NBA games we're constantly watching all these guys like Steph and everybody, Trae Young last night, making logo threes,
Yep.
But I also think what you have to consider is that even the best shooter of all time in Steph Curry is 42.3%.
43% in the regular season, 40% in the postseason.
That should tell you, even the best shooter the game's ever seen is only making 4 out of 10. So when you ask Royce O'Neal or Bogdanovich or Joe Ingles or Jordan Clarkson or Donovan Mitchell to make 40% from 3, that's not realistic. None of those guys are Steph Curry. None of them. So that's why I'm saying you're going to shoot 35 to 37% from 3 in the postseason. Guaranteed.
At your best.
At your best. Yeah, what happens on the nights when
best.
you shoot 25%?
You lose. And Tanner makes a really good point. Tanner Plummer on YouTube says, if the Jazz don't win tonight, the quote-unquote fraud narrative will continue to pick up speed. Do you agree? Oh, yeah. And I don't think the Jazz are a fraud. Let's be really careful about this.
Yeah.
The Jazz are not frauds. The Jazz are an elite basketball team. My feeling is that they're built on a house of cards.
Yeah.
That's my feeling on the Utah Jazz. They're not frauds. They're very good, but they're a one-trick pony. They have to shoot the 3 really well to win. The Suns, I would say the Clippers, what we saw out of Paul George last night, Jake,
Yeah.
they don't have to. Clippers are not reliant on the 3 to win. It certainly helps. When Mr. Longfingers, Kahwi Leonard, is making a 3 on a kick out, or when what's really scary about the Clippers right now? If you look at the way they're playing over the last couple of, I would say 3-4 weeks worth of games.
Yeah.
Paul George, Kahwi Leonard, and Reggie Jackson are on the floor together, and they're making shots. They're playing well.
The chemistry is clearly building.
It's getting better.
Yeah.
That's terrifying. You look at the Denver Nuggets. Are the Denver Nuggets getting better right now?
Yeah.
Aaron Gordon has injected energy into that club.
Well,
and Nikola Jokic, I think, is playing outstanding basketball.
Think of it this way. In terms of where teams are trending, the Jazz got off to this crazy start, right? They light the league on fire. Everything's amazing. And I'm not saying right now that they're trending down, but they're certainly not trending up. Right, they're not going up and to the right. They're just kind of going middle and to the right.
They're
you know
flat.
what I mean? They're just kind of They're just kind of working right now. Whereas the Nuggets up and to the right, the Clippers
Yes.
up and to the right.
Yes.
You've got all these teams that are contenders. The Suns up and to the right. These teams are building. These teams are starting to get hot at the right time of the year. And that's another thing that I have a concern about, is just that you put all this effort and energy in the first half, and you had a really short All-Star break coming off of a really short offseason. So you're not going to be rested at all. And again, just saying, we told you in the first half, hey, they will slow down from three at some point. And what did we see? We saw a big downturn towards the end of the first half from three-point land, and that's because they were tired. Their legs were tired. So I'm just telling you guys, we're not sitting here saying that, hey, this is some crap team or the Jazz aren't legit or whatever. They are legit. They're going to be in the postseason. They are going to be in a game to get to the NBA Finals. I firmly believe that. And in that game, whether it's the Nuggets, the Clippers, whoever it may be, right? Maybe it's the Suns, who knows, right? But whoever they're playing, that moment right there, when game one of the Western Conference Finals tips off and it's Jazz versus whoever,
Yep.
That's the moment we've been waiting for the entire season to see if the three ball is going to show up. And it needs to show up for them to be solidified.
I think the Suns have to win this game
Yeah, no doubt.
tonight in Phoenix. I think if the Suns win this game, they're on a trajectory that's going to be tough to stop because the Lakers aren't coming back.
Right.
I think the Clippers and the Suns, the Nuggets, those are all very dangerous teams.
Mm-hmm.
And so then when I look at where the Jazz are, the Jazz have to win this game. If the Jazz lose this game, it's going to be really difficult to regain that momentum.
Yep.
I think Donovan Mitchell has to be a superstar tonight. I know he wants that. I know he's up for that. I know he's thirsty for that.
Mm-hmm.
He has to be truly a superstar tonight. And I cannot wait for this game.
Well, and if you're the Suns, this game is not. It's not just about picking up a game on the Jazz. If you're the Suns,
Not at all.
This game is about mentally getting to a place where you're able to say to yourself, "Yeah, we can beat them. Like we can handle them. We can. If we do what we do, we're just as good as them." And we're not fearful of seeing them in a 7-gamer, in the Western Conference Finals or whatever, or whenever they would, potentially meet. And I think that's huge for the rest of the year. And so if you're the Jazz, when I say this is a must-win game, I don't mean from a record standpoint. Yeah, if you lose this game, you're still a game ahead or whatever it is.
Game and a half, yep.
You still are ahead, and your fate is in your control. So by a record standpoint, it's not nearly a must-win game. But from a mindset perspective, from a get your swag in order perspective, from a, hey, we need to flex on the Suns and show them this is what it is. We're going into their building in Phoenix, and we want to beat them by 10 or 15 points. If that happens, that will catapult the Jazz to another level.
I just think the Suns are too good defensively to lose by 10 or 15 points.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. I think this is a very even game, and I think if you haven't watched the Suns all year, prioritize watching this game because you will see a great game tonight.
Yeah, I am shocked to say that the Jazz have fallen this far. I'm really surprised just based on their quality. A couple other things from around the league last night. No, I absolutely. Marcus says, make your pick. Is it Donovan or is it Book?
Well, I'm going with the Suns. Yeah, I'm going with the Suns.
If you just tuned in, I'm taking Devin Booker over Donovan Mitchell.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm taking the Suns to win this game. I think it's going to be.
This is a 40 for Devin Booker.
Yeah, I think it'll be a 2-possession game. I think this will be. The Jazz will probably have the ball with a chance to take the lead on the last possession. I would guess. That's what this is a playoff game. That's what these games generally come down to. So I think I'll take the Suns to win like 110-107. 110, 108. Free throws. If it's more than 4, it's probably free throws at the end of the game. But I think I'll take the Suns to win a very, very close game. Very close game. I think it's critical for both. Couple other things from around the NBA last night. How much do you put on this win by the Sixers and how bad Boston's playing right now? I mean, I don't know how you explain this, what's going on with the Celtics.
I actually think, to be honest with you, I just think that the Celtics are in a place where they don't have direction. Like every time we talked about them, it just seems like, you have Brad Stevens, and he is responsible, right? Like, it is his responsibility to get this team in a place where they're going to win big games against the Sixers, let's say, or whatever. But I don't think that it's all Brad Stevens' fault. I think that there's a couple of things at play here. So number one, the post Kyrie era in Boston is a rudderless ship. They don't have Jason Tatum is a phenomenal player. I love watching the guy play. He's not a superstar in this league yet. He is not quite at that level yet where it's his team. And then you have a bunch of awesome second-tier players.
He needs guys around him to step up.
He needs Kemba. He needs Jaylen Brown. He needs those guys to make something happen. And when they're not, the Celtics are not going to win. So if you're Boston, you got one of two options here. You're either tearing the whole thing down and you're keeping Jason Tatum and rebuilding a whole new team around him, including a new head coach, or you have to commit to Brad Stevens in the long term. You have to say, hey, this isn't all on Brad Stevens. We've got to build a better culture and a better roster to work with.
You should have made the Aaron Gordon trade. And because this Boston team needs a rebuild.
He would have been perfect there.
There's no doubt about that. And the ball breaker from last night in this loss to Philly is you had 4 of your 5 starters in double digits. You got 20 out of Tatum. You outshot the Sixers. You shot 41% from 3.
Yep.
And you lost.
Yep.
And I think when I look at the plight of this team, it is that you cannot compete in the middle. If you're the Boston Celtics, you have no way to defend Joel Embiid, who goes 1 of 5 from 3 and still scores 35 points.
And it's funny if you compare the Celtics to the Jazz, not from like a record standpoint or like where they're at in the league, but just from like a roster perspective.
Yes.
The Celtics don't have anything in the middle. Joel scores 35. Well, what do the Jazz have in the middle? They've got the Defensive Player of the Year, and Joel Embiid put up 40, 45 points on him. So the issue, I don't even feel like the issue for the Celtics, honestly, is the lack of a big man. Yeah, they do have that, and they need a big man. The issue is they don't have. Jason Tatum can't put up 20 against Philly. I need 40 against Philly, dude. Like, I need you to go out and make a statement against Philly. Devin, Booker, 40 points tonight against the Jazz. Has to happen. Simple as that if you want to win that game.
Who's going to show out?
Yeah.
And I have more confidence in CP3 and Book than I do in Mitchell and Conley.
Yeah.
And that's a really good point.
Yeah.
Lakers and Raps last night. This Dennis Schroeder thing with Anunoby, I am at a loss for words to understand what OJ Anunoby was doing.
Yeah.
I just don't. You know what? And if you didn't see it, OG Anunoby was on the break. Schroeder caught up to him. Anunoby went up to dunk the ball, and Schroeder actually got his whole hand on the ball.
Yeah.
And swiped down. They kind of stumbled to the left, and OG Anunoby went Karate Kid and swept the leg on Schroeder and threw him on his back.
Yeah.
I think this is one of those games that galvanizes a team for the Lakers. And I'm telling you now, if they get LeBron back, don't run into that team in the first or second round.
Yeah. I mean, I think that was a really stupid move by OG Anunoby, but at the same time, like, yeah, for the Lakers, it was a great thing because OG Anunoby had a choice not to do that.
Yes,
they had run into each other, everything was cool, the play had stopped, and then he just went and did it. And so you get Montrezl Harrell stepping right in, not taking anything. You get the rest of the team stepping in, and I think you're right. It was a great moment, and I think that the team. It's funny. The team is finally, that second unit of players that they have is finally starting to come together.
The problem for the league right now with the Lakers is there's development happening.
Yeah.
With that second unit. And if I'd have told you without AD, without LeBron, Trez getting ejected after 2 minutes, there's no way that they're beating the Raptors in Tampa. Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
And it's because when you start looking at the guys that are really contributing now, Markieff Morris is giving them big points. You look at Alex Caruso, who, listen, I think as a bench player, Alex Caruso giving you 3 of 4 from 3 and 13 points, diving on the floor. He's become a real central figure for them. You know about Horton Tucker already. I think you know about Schroeder, KCP. Like, they're getting development out of all of these guys that are now contributing They shot 45% from three last night without their best players.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
The Lakers may be realizing the silver lining in the AD LeBron injuries. If they stay in the playoffs, and there's no guarantee, I don't think they're falling out of the playoffs, but if they stay in the top 6, man, I think they're going to be difficult. And I still think it's odd that you don't know what's going on with LeBron and AD.
Yeah.
They're not talking about those injuries
Because they're going to take their time.
That's a little scary. If you're a Laker fan, that's a little scary. All right. Make sure if you're watching this video right now on YouTube, please give us a thumbs up. Go ahead and click the thumbs up button there. Click subscribe. We really appreciate you guys being here. If you're on the audio podcast, hey, thanks so much. Spotify, another huge day yesterday. But you can find us anywhere you get a podcast, whether it's iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, obviously, Spotify, Stitcher. Just search The Monty Show, Monty, The Monty Show on Google, and all of our stuff pops up. Let's talk Fernando Tatis Jr. As I shocked many people on this show yesterday, or the last time we talked about this, I don't know why it was so surprising that I am a pretty significant Padre fan. They're my number 2 team, and they have been for years. I love that ballpark is why I became Petco Park is why I became a Padre fan. When I lived in LA, I would routinely go down and see the Cubs. When we lived in Phoenix, we'd drive over and see the Cubs in San Diego. The park is just great.
Yeah.
And then you start watching the team, and you really start enjoying Padre baseball. And now that they are, in my opinion, one of the best teams in the National League, it's hard not to root for this team. But we talked about the Fernando Tatis Jr. contract. And this shoulder injury is not about that. Only it is. Fernando Tatis Jr. the other night swung and missed and dislocated his shoulder, partially tore his labrum. And there is a dispute as to whether or not he will need surgery. They put him on the 10-day injured list, and people rejoiced over it. Oh, he'll be back in a couple of weeks. No, he won't. You don't tear a labrum, granted, non-throwing shoulder.
Which is super significant, by the way.
Yes, he's a shortstop. He needs the gun. But you don't tear a labrum in your lead shoulder as a hitter and miss a couple of weeks. This is several months, probably 3 to 6 months because I don't see how you avoid surgery here.
Yeah.
When you have a torn labrum, when you have a dislocated shoulder, I just don't see how you avoid that.
Yeah, so I was reading this thing. The doctor basically gave a breakdown, the guy who evaluated him. Essentially what happened was, Tatis has this crazy swing. He over-accentuates the shoulder on the follow-through. What happened is there's 2 types of dislocations, right? You've got the full one where the ball of your shoulder physically pops out of the socket and stays out, which is not what happened with Tatis.
No.
What happened with Tatis is his shoulder ball popped out of the socket and went right back in. So a partial dislocation, and in that process, a partially torn labrum. And why that matters is because if he had a full dislocation and a full tear of a labrum, he'd be done for the year. It'd be over. Like, you're not coming back from that. Now, what they're doing is, and why the 10-day IL thing is important, is because they only put him on the 10-day to evaluate him in 10 days when the swelling goes down, because they can't see all the damage that's done. They actually don't know, hey, will he actually need surgery? Is this something that we can just keep him on the 60-day and then he'll come back without surgery? Like, they don't know where it's at. They don't know how bad the injury is. And so that really is why we're sitting here saying, hey, yeah, he might be on the 10-day, but he's only on the 10-day because that's how long they need before they can actually look at the injury in detail. So it's super important to understand what actually happened.
Well, here's why I'm worried.
Yeah.
Because this is a second major injury for him. In 2019, you'll remember he missed the last 2 months, I think it was, of the season with a back injury, a fracture in his back. He missed 2 months. Last year, he played most of the year, 54 games, I think it was. And now he, in my opinion, is going to be lucky to play again this year. You just gave him a $340 million contract. it's a really awful way to kick off that contract. And this is a World Series contending team. They got another really fine performance out of you, Darvish, last night. This team has everything that you need to contend.
Mm-hmm.
Except now they don't have a superstar because, again, I'll say Manny Machado wasn't worth it. They're going to have to find a way to be drip, to have swag without Fernando Tatis.
Mm-hmm.
This is going to be really important.
Yeah.
And I think this dramatically changes their flight to a World Series.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, you're losing one of your best players. I think it just really depends how long he's out, man. I mean, if it really is a thing where, because I agree with you, I do think he's going to be out for a good bit of the season now. But it really just is a question of is that just the first half? Is that like most of the season and then a potential postseason appearance? Like what are we talking about? And that's why I say, like, I think if you're the Padres, the contract, when we had first discussed the contract, we felt like it was a bit premature just from a commitment standpoint. You didn't have to do it, and you still did it anyway. And so, you've got guy A saying, hey, well, why not? You want this guy to be part of your team for his entire career. Okay, yeah, I can get that.
Yeah.
But on the other side of it, I'm sitting here saying, okay, well, if he gets hurt, you're strapped, and, well, now he's hurt. And so now you're going to have to deal with that.
Well, and you've delayed this shoulder issue for a couple of seasons.
Uh-huh.
Because he obviously... This is not new. Now, this injury is new. This left shoulder issue for Tatis is not new.
Right.
This goes back to last year. I think he was dealing with this a little bit. In spring, he missed a little bit of time here, you'll remember, because he hurt that shoulder on pretty much a routine play. And now he swings through a breaking ball against the Giants, and the thing pops out of socket.
And it does make you wonder, too. I thought about this till literally right now, but he's committed 5 errors in the first 4 games or whatever.
He's not been himself.
Yeah, and it makes you wonder if it's been a bigger issue than they were letting on.
I think it has been. I mean, they clearly have been treating and rehabbing this shoulder, and it's just something I'd pay a hell of a lot of attention to.
Yeah.
Because you cannot have a situation where this guy comes back. If I'm the Padres, I shut him down until that shoulder is at 100% or as close to 100% if it's going to be. If that's the rest of the year, so be it. We're giving this bro $340 million. He's our most popular player. He's one of the most popular players in baseball. He's one of the most popular Latin players in the world. Sit the guy down. If he needs surgery, do not delay. Get it done, and let's go on about our business.
Get him back on the field as soon as possible.
And if that's next spring, so be it.
Yeah.
This guy is such a critical factor in your development. Guys like Hosmer and Will Myers are not critical factors for you. They're important to your championship. Fernando Tatis is critical to the foundation of who you are as a baseball club.
Yeah.
Money-wise, marketing-wise, you name it, TV rights, radio rights, he just is.
Right.
He is so important. And I just hope that the Padres go slow with this.
Well, we'll see.
Please do not rush him back with expectations of winning a World Series.
Yeah.
To me, that's really scary.
Yeah.
Really,
I
really
agree.
scary.
Yeah.
All right, give us a thumbs up, hit subscribe here on our YouTube channel. And now let's talk the Masters. A tradition unlike any other. Do you care? Because right now I'm trying to find a way to care. Mm-hmm. And I am not all in on the idea that I have to watch the Masters.
Yeah, I think golf in general, before even talking about the Masters itself, golf in general is really struggling because there isn't another guy right now. Spieth won for the first time in 4 years at the Texas Open. Like 4 years, bro. Like, where have you been? Where have you been? And I just think the sport doesn't have anybody right now that's like doing anything. I mean, DeChambeau is kind of like a cult hero because he drives the hell out of the ball. Like, Dustin Johnson just is known as somebody who can be a world number one, and he either is or he's
reigning
not.
Champ.
Yeah, like you've got Brooks, who is just such a nonchalant guy. Who
doesn't like playing golf. And
yeah,
doesn't
like
practice
he only does it because he wants to make money. And he just happens to be that good at it. So
But how awesome is that? Brooks Koepka, for those of you who don't know, says he never practices.
Yeah.
He does not love golf, does not play a lot outside of tournaments. It's why you don't see him at the Wintrust Jimmy John's Plastic Bottle Factory Open. Because he does not enjoy playing golf.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. This Masters is not must watch.
Yeah.
It's not.
That said,
for
I'll
me
probably
anyway.
still watch it a little bit.
Oh, I'm probably going to watch it. I'm going to watch the par 3. Obviously, I'm going to watch, as the tournament opens up tomorrow. I think I really want this to be special.
Like Sunday at the Masters is something to behold, typically. But this year, because Tiger Woods, got in an accident, it's different. And I think that, again, we don't have a lot of years left with Tiger, generally speaking. Like, I mean, what has he got? 5 years left, maybe?
Oh, Tiger Woods?
Yeah.
It's over. He's never going to play golf again.
Well,
I firmly believe that Tiger Woods will never play competitive golf again. I think his ego will not let him be second best player.
Mm-hmm.
I don't.
Yeah.
Knipsowski. Okay, whatever. Hey, again, with all due respect. It says, how are you not excited to see Jon Rahm, one of the best players in the world that nobody ever talks about? Well, hey, look, okay.
But my guy, Jon Rahm is not what stirs the drink, my friend. I don't know how to break this to you. Yes, he's a hell of a player.
Dustin Johnson and Paulina Gretzky stir the drink.
Yeah.
Okay, come on.
Daily.
Come on. Yeah, well, hopefully. For his sake, hopefully multiple times daily. I'm looking forward to it. It's not must-watch TV. It's not. I'm not going to must-watch TV yet. Couple other things real quick. Because I know that we need to be efficient with our time today. Mm-hmm. Because as I explained to you in a few moments, our disastrous bathroom renovations are happening. This Matt Gaetz story just continues to escalate. Congressman Matt Gaetz.
Yeah.
He accused of trafficking that 17-year-old ass. No, I'm kidding.
Wow.
Probably too much. Probably over the top. I own that fact. Matt Gaetz is accused of traveling a 17-year-old girl around the country. He's being investigated for this by DOJ to have sex with her. She's underage, and so he's being investigated for sex trafficking of an underage girl. He is being investigated for paying underage girls for sex, him and a colleague.
You're a douche.
He is being, okay, that would be kind of a douchey thing to do. He is being accused by his fellow congressmen of showing pictures of nude women that he has conquered.
Hey, look here, man.
He is being accused of showing pictures to his fellow congressmen of, hey, look at this, I got a nude photo. I planted a garden last night. Like, come on, dude. He was, according to some, reprimanded and censured by his fellow congressmen for boorish behavior in his first term in
Boorish.
Congress, which is inappropriate, unprofessional, unbecoming behavior in Congress.
Oh, you mean the entire... Nope.
Now you know
Nope.
that Matt Gaetz is denying all of this. He threw up a smokescreen that said, oh, well, there's an FBI agent who disappeared in Syria, and there's extortion, and this is about my dad being a multi-gazillionaire. By the way, none of that was tied to the investigation's origins or your actions.
And you exposed your dad as a rat.
Yeah, and then, seriously, you outed your own father, Matt Gaetz, you dirtbag, as a cooperating witness with the government. Happy Father's Day!
Oh, my God.
It's not too late to adopt,
Dude.
Elder Gates. It's not too late to adopt and create new.
Dude, how?
And now this story out of the New York Times yesterday that Matt Gaetz, who we have been crushed on this show, and there's no evidence, you're convicting this guy, what a bunch of pricks on this show.
Stop the seal.
You never watched the Jazz anyway. Now there's evidence that your boy, Matt Gaetz, not evidence, it's well known now that Matt Gaetz went to Donald Trump while he was still in office and asked for a full, broad pardon.
And we were saying that.
Okay, so I'm curious. You're accused of trafficking a 17-year-old girl and paying underage girls for sex, but you said you didn't do it, so why are you asking for a full pardon?
Pack everything up. We're out of here.
Like, I'm serious. He asked, the New York Times says that he asked the Trump administration for a full, broad pardon.
A blanket pardon. A blanket pardon to cover everything.
But you didn't do anything wrong, I thought. It's a conspiracy theory, and that's why we can't let people in Georgia vote.
Hey,
You
know.
This guy's a dirtbag.
Yep.
And the more that we go through this situation, and I will just repeatedly say, there is no way he's innocent.
Mm-hmm.
There is just no way.
You are what you are.
Matt Gaetz is guilty, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Right? This is Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson's accusers are now outing themselves so that they, quote, can protect women from Deshaun Watson.
As you can see, there's not much hope for you left.
You're a dirtbag. Matt Gaetz, when you ask for a full and complete blanket pardon from Donald Trump, that says that you're guilty.
Doesn't make you feel responsible.
Yeah, it probably does, Matty. I think you're in some trouble.
Ugh.
I think he's going to have to resign at some point because this is coming to a head now.
Yeah, it's getting closer, definitely.
By the way, he's also hired one of the best defense attorneys in the world. Mm-hmm. He knows he's in trouble.
Oh, without a doubt. Yeah,
He knows.
He knows. Yeah, he's been watching this coming for a long time, bro.
Yeah. All right. So I'm going to do something I don't usually do.
Uh-oh.
Matt says, you guys believe everything you read in the biased media. Why would I believe the New York Times?
It's the New York Times.
I'll just ask. The New York Times is not perfect.
Uh-huh.
But go ahead and point to the numerous repeated stories where they've been completely wrong.
Uh-huh.
You can't. The New York Times is one of the beacons of light in journalism. I'm not quoting CNN. I'm not quoting Fox News. I'm not quoting MSNBC. It's the New York Times. The New York Times gains nothing by lying or making stories up. They're one of the most credible news organizations in the world.
Yeah.
The idea that just because you don't like the story they put out doesn't mean, oh, it's fake news. Barry says fake news. The New York Times is a fish wrap. That's cool, man. But explain to me why the New York Times is a fish wrap, Barry.
And what exactly are they wrong about?
And again, they have had to print a couple of retractions, and they have gotten stories wrong. Yes, that is true.
And by the way, they admit when they got it wrong.
But that to me is a feather in their cap, because if you just try to hide and cover up that you're wrong, Tucker Carlson, or that you're not unbiased Fox News and CNN,
yeah,
that's where you lose credibility. When you're the New York Times and you are an independent, standalone news outlet, you have to admit when you're wrong, and they do. And overwhelmingly, they are right. Their stories, people like Maggie Haberman are incredible journalists that work really hard to get it right. They have standards that they have to employ.
Yeah, and look, let's be honest about it. I mean, whether it's Barry or anybody else, you're always going to have people who are going to die on the hill of, hey, it's fake news and we don't believe this. Okay, cool. I mean, you can live in that world, but I'm just telling you, there's a reason that it's outed that Matt Gaetz asked for a pardon.
Yep, and Will says, you guys should stick to sports. You don't know anything about this story. Matt Gaetz is the victim of a blackmail scheme. Okay.
Infowars.com.
Help me!
Dude, you can't help these people,
dude. He's not the victim of a
You
blackmail scheme.
can't help these people, dog.
His father was the victim of a blackmail scheme. And do you understand why they tried to blackmail his father for $25 million? Matt Gaetz' dad is incredibly wealthy. He's a power player in Florida politics. Quick story, a couple of former FBI and CIA agents got together when they got wind that Matt Gaetz was under investigation at the Department of Justice. They did not put him under investigation. They had no part in the investigation. They're no longer FBI or CIA agents. These two heard Matt Gaetz was under investigation for sex trafficking a 17-year-old. Their friend, Agent Levinson, I believe his name is, went missing in Syria or Iran. He went missing in the Middle East. His family last month, I believe, declared him dead. He's been missing for years. But there's a large sect of his circle that believes he's alive being held captive. Pretty sure it's Iran, excuse me.
Yeah.
They went to Matt Gaetz' father because they heard about the investigation, and they said, give us $25 million and we won't tell people about the investigation. They never said, we'll make the investigation go away. We won't investigate him. Matt Gaetz has never been blackmailed.
Yeah.
Matt Gaetz the investigation has never been the subject of blackmail. It is happening. It is ongoing. It is independent. It is nothing to do with the blackmailing of Matt Gaetz' father other than to say that these two agents said, give us $25 million and we won't publicize it.
Yeah.
That's it. So this idea that because of the blackmail scandal, he's innocent is garbage. It's just not true. And there's no way around that.
Yeah.
There's not.
I mean, Fox News will tell you a different story.
And again, Tyler also is the guy who's ripping me for saying, oh, just another powerful white guy who fell at the feet of sex. Well, you're right. I shouldn't say white guy because all men seem to fall at the feet of sex, especially when they're powerful and rich, whether it's the Kennedys, whether it's Andrew Jackson
Bill
having
Clinton.
sex with slaves, whether it is Bill Clinton,
Donald Trump,
I mean, the list is endless.
Jeff Bezos.
How many guys have lost millions, position, clout, power, money, families, because they couldn't keep their fly zipped?
Yeah.
It's endless.
Brett Favre.
Literally, the list is endless.
Yep.
And it's why I always go back and say pornography is a great destroyer of men. And if you're watching porn on a daily basis, I'm telling you, you're wrecking your life. And guys like Matt Gaetz, you don't get accused of trafficking a 17-year-old across state lines accidentally. Don't know how to break it to you, but when you're showing your colleagues in Congress nude photos of women you've had sex with, when you are in a sex scandal with a colleague in Florida, when you are accused of paying underage women for sex, you're no better than Jeffrey Epstein. You're no better than anybody that is a pedophile.
Yeah.
I don't know why this is so hard to understand.
Because I think that people who watch Fox News and subscribe to the fake news stuff and all that, they're just never going to come off of it. I mean, it just is what it is, man.
Pat Fan 9 says truth. Appreciate that. Eric C says, damn, more people need to watch the live show. LOL, best way to start your day. We totally agree with
seriously. Hit subscribe, watch the show. Telling you guys, you comment, we read the comments.
That's what we do.
Sometimes it goes good for you. Sometimes it doesn't go good for you. Really just depends on what you said.
Usually not.
Yeah.
All right, hit subscribe. Give us a thumbs up if you're liking this. And now we tell you contractor horror stories. So you know that we hired a contractor to renovate 2 small bathrooms. I own a townhouse in Salt Lake City. Hey, man, how long is this going to take? A week. Okay, cool. How much? All right, you're looking at it. The total quote was like 10 grand, let's say.
Right, yeah.
All right, cool. Hey, we opened up the floor. The guy did the job. He was there the next day. His guys totally renovated or detonated the bathrooms, tore them apart. 2 days later, the tile guy showed up.
Everything was cool.
Everything was good.
Yeah.
Then we pulled up the floor, and the guy was like, hey, I'm going to have to fix this. It's going to be about a G more. Okay, cool. Hey, we're going to order these cabinets. Your wife wants this kind. We're going to have to make these 2 wall cabinets. Okay, that's going to be about $750 more.
Okay, so now we're $1,750 over budget.
Okay, so we're into this for 2 Gs, right? Yeah. Okay, when's the cabinet going to be here? 3 days from now.
Don't lie to me.
3 days later, it's like, oh, it's delayed. It'll be here 2 days later.
Congratulations, but that's bullshit.
Hey, man, I've got family coming in for Easter weekend. You said this was going to be a week. We're on our 2nd week now. Are you going to have these cabinets in by the time my family gets here Saturday? This is this past weekend. Oh, yeah, no problem. They'll be here Wednesday. We'll install them Thursday like nothing happened. So Wednesday comes around. I'm like, hey, is there an update on the cabinets? Oh, ay Dios míos, dígame, end of the world.
Where's the Italian?
End of the world. This guy was like, oh, the cabinet company, UPS, your mom, like, We're in Wyoming. And it's like, okay, cool, bro. You said the cabinets would be here. What's the timeline now? Next, and all I got was the 3 dots in the text message. Next week. Next week. Okay, so when next week? Monday they'll be installed. Text him on Monday. Hey, man, update? Oh, yeah, we got them. They're in my shop. We've got to build them, and we'll drop them off. They'll be installed tomorrow. So he shows up yesterday, tomorrow. The cabinets are not built. They're in boxes. He shows up at noon instead of 8. They take all the cabinet parts out of the boxes and leave. Stacked them up in the hallways. Not built, just the parts of the cabinet stacked
Just laying
up,
around.
and they leave.
Yeah. Meanwhile, people are in town.
Family's in town, mother-in-law's in town, no sinks or vanities in our bathrooms.
Perfect.
Okay. So then I say to the guy at 3 o'clock, hey, man, on text, I'm like, hey, man, are you guys coming back today? When are we going to build these cabinets? And he's like, oh, my cabinet guy is going to be there in 5 minutes.
Yeah, okay.
An hour later, the cabinet guy actually showed up. They were here till like almost 7 last night, building the cabinets, installing them. They're about 18 inches too big. Maybe 18 inches is a stretch. Let's call it 10 inches too big.
Mm-hmm.
They're almost, I would say 10 inches is probably a good estimate. They're about 10 inches too big. Which I've heard that story my entire life.
Right, yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's a joke. Anyway, the point is, they're 10 inches too big. So when you're sitting on your throne, where are you going to put the roll of toilet paper? Hey, man, where am I going to put a garbage can in my bathroom? Hey, man, this is not working. These cabs are like way too big.
Yeah.
And all we asked him for were cabinets that were at least 32 inches high. And we legit had the conversation, same size, 32 inches high.
Yeah, so you just wanted it taller, but the same width.
Oh, yeah. Done. No.
I doubt that.
By the way, where's the shower glass for the master? We're on our 12th business day now. It was supposed to be in 10 days. Oh, wait, that's right. You didn't order the glass guy to even come out until like the 6th business day.
Mm-hmm.
So we made the classic mistake.
I started having second thoughts.
We made the classic mistake of hiring a contractor who was available. And if you're in a market where contractors are telling you, like the other 4 or 5 guys who came and looked at our project were like, yeah, man, I'm booked like 3 months, but I'd love to get you on my schedule.
Yeah.
This guy was like, yeah, I can have guys here demoing the bathroom tomorrow. Let's do it. I'm like, all right, cool. I mean, his price was not rock bottom.
Right.
Based on the other people we had talked to. I had 2 other people look at that job.
Yeah.
This guy was about 10 grand. Those guys were about 15, 16 grand.
Okay.
Right? His tile guy is elite, though. The contractor we're using, great tile work.
Yeah.
Paint, trim, finishing, measuring, everything
Cabinets.
else. Everything else has been a disaster. By the way, we still don't have stone.
Perfect. So how are we going to go about resolving all this waste of time?
I don't know what to do here because I haven't paid him. I've paid him about 60% of the job. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to give him another penny until it's done.
Yeah.
And we're going to have to negotiate a significant discount.
Yeah.
Because this is, at this point, I don't know what you do with these cabinets. My wife is more patient than I am because my inclination is to tell him you're taking those out and you're putting cabinets that fit therein.
Oh, absolutely.
It
wouldn't even be a question. I mean, that's a classic mistake you can't make.
And it's little things like we have a vent in our master bathroom. We have a vent that heats the bathroom.
Yeah.
It's under the vanity, which is not abnormal at all. It's regular practice. And we said to the guy, hey, remember, the vent's under the vanity. You need to cut
so the heat can come up through the vanity.
Yeah, you need to cut a vent into the bottom of the cabinet. Didn't do that. Like, we spent pretty good money on cabinet handles, cabinet knobs. And it didn't matter. Oh, come on. Is my guy 10 minutes early now? it didn't matter because he put the wrong cabinet knobs, like his guys. And this, I think, is the problem. The GC is not here.
Yeah.
This guy is not here enough. His guys are the ones making these mistakes.
Yep.
So there you go. I don't know what I'm going to do about it.
He's definitely replacing those vanities.
Yeah, has to. Has
It's
to.
not negotiable.
Has to. I would agree with that. All right, play the music. I'm actually handling it better than I thought I would. By the way, none of his guys wear masks in our house either. Not that I guess it matters.
You have a vaccine.
Yeah.
You're fine.
And I would just like to point out, it was a week ago today that me and my wife had this huge fight. This last week has been a disaster.
Yeah.
Nothing has gone well this last week. So I'm hoping now that we're into a week later, that it's going to start rolling downhill and, like everything's going to be great.
Hey. Yeah. Hopefully. Here's to hoping, buddy.
Just search Google, The Monty Show. Monty, The Monty Show. It has been a horrendous week.
Just search Google for oversized vanities.
The picture of my house will come up. The Monty Show. Monty, The Monty Show. Find us on Twitter, The Monty Show. You can find Jake, SLC Supercars, on Twitter and the Gram. You can find me on Twitter and the Gram, The Monty Show. Monty, The Monty Show. Thank you so much for being here. Give us a thumbs up and a like. Until tomorrow, say, nice cabinets, bro.
Nice cabinets, bro.